Dude, so check it out. I texted you guys like about an hour ago or half hour ago, whatever. So the Trump classified document case is suspended indefinitely. A lot of other things going on. Part of it is because his lead attorney is also representing him up in New York. So you guys know the photo that came out, right, with all the cover sheets and everything laying on the ground.
Yeah,
that was staged by the FBI. That was staged. None of the documents had cover sheets on them. So let me paint this picture. Now we know that we saw the pictures of boxes and stuff like that. Got it. So they went into these boxes, pulled these documents out. I'm going to go ahead and so they brought their own cover sheets, slapped their own cover sheets on the docs. And actually, I don't even know if the docs are there. They may just be cover sheets. I'd have to look closer at the picture. But laid them on the ground with those, 12, 13, 14, top secret, SCI, secret, and all that other stuff on the ground, took the photo and released it.
Okay. Devil's advocate, right? That I wouldn't put that past the FBI for 1 second. But if you were taking pictures of them was uncalled for, and them being leaked to the media is uncalled for, number one. But let's say that you are in charge of a raid, right? And you suspect there are classified documents there. You do bring along cover sheets because, and then you look and there's something that's TS, TK, whatever, yeah, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to need to put a cover sheet on this and put it in an envelope in order to transport it, right? Now that's weak. I'm just devil's advocating it. It's like, okay, well, maybe they brought the cover sheets along with them, but that's weak sauce, bro. I'm steel manning the FBI, and it's just.
But even if they brought it with them, you purposely take these docs. And again, I'd have to look to see if they're even documents because it might just be the cover sheets. I think there's probably a couple pieces of paper you can see out the side, but they purposely attach cover sheets that weren't in the boxes that Trump didn't have. You laid out. So what's the whole point of taking that picture? I understand. Yeah, I understand the point of like the, they had the one with the boxes in the closet or wherever the heck it was. Like, I get that, right?
Bathroom.
Hey, as part of evidence, here's what we found, this and that. Okay, those documents weren't laying on the floor in the hallway. I'm going to tell you that right now. So the only point to do that is to leak it to the media, to convict him in public court before it ever, before it goes to appeals and this and whatever the heck happens. Which is no different than, I don't know if you guys follow the Stormy Daniels testimony today, but I X'd something. Yeah, it was. But you know what? Here's the thing. I X'd something earlier. I was like, so tell me when the federal election campaign part comes up, because that's what he's on trial for.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing as the cover sheets laying on the ground, Josh. Even the judge said today in the Stormy Daniels he said, okay, wrap it up. And he said some things are best left unsaid, which tells me it's totally immaterial to the case. Even the judge is seeing that. And he's like, man, I do have a shred of a reputation to uphold, and this is turning into a circus. And the same reason they put those cover sheets on the ground is the same reason they put her up there to say all these probably embarrassing things, right? But, Josh, my thing with Trump, I got a lot of things with Trump. And I was going to start. I'm glad Roger started that way, because I was just going to say, well, when Roger hit record, I was just going to say Trump, because Josh loves Trump. But Trump shouldn't have put himself in that position. Obviously, that was a foolish thing to do, But yeah. Anyway, I just think it's all just a show. It's all a show, and I don't know if it's getting the intended reaction, the intended result.
Well, I don't think the judge stopped the questioning or told the prosecution to, get back up out of the weeds, because he has a shred of decency left.
Yeah, he waited like 6 hours later.
Exactly. I think it was the part where Trump's lawyer confronted her with her book that she wrote, and then she claimed the complete opposite of what it was on the stand, and Trump's lawyer called her on it and was like, "Oh, whoa. You wrote this in your book. That's not what you just testified to under oath. So which is it?" Mm-hmm. And it's germane to the case about what she was telling, one of her friends about the encounter with Trump. And so, yeah, I don't believe for a second it's because the judge has a conscience. I think the judge saw, like this, they're going to destroy this. But you're absolutely correct. Trump put himself in the position, dude. There is no doubt in my mind, none whatsoever, that Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels. None
Oh, of
whatsoever.
course.
Yeah,
Right? That
absolutely.
happened. One, he never should have done it. And then two, this could have all been avoided if in 2016, when it came out, did you have sex with Stormy Daniels? He'd have been like, yeah, I did. So what of it? Like it would all been avoided. It would have been done. But no, but he can't get out of his own way.
Well, no, that's a
He
moot
just
point though,
can't get out
because
of his own way.
you can't say getting out
It's
of his
not a
own
moot
way
point.
when you're going to try him for federal election campaign, charges and bring
Dude,
in. Now, I don't
if he would have
disagree.
admitted,
That's bullshit.
if he would have admitted to having sex with Stormy Daniels in 2016, this case would not have been brought. This case would not have been brought. They would have gone with something else. They would have found.
It'd have been some other charge with federal election campaign.
Yeah, it would have been some other charge, but it wouldn't have been this, which is so because everybody knows what happened. Everybody knows that Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels. Then he lied about it, and then he lied about it again, and he paid what's his face Manafort to keep her quiet. Everybody knows what that payment was for. It's not dude. He'd be like, no, it wasn't. Was it hush money? Yes, it was. Come on. Everybody knows what that's for. Not saying Trump's the only one who's done it. A lot of people have done it. But dude, just God bless, man. Just he can't get out of his own way. As far as the documents go, yeah, I mean, with Luke, if I'm going to, I mean, we did that investigation that had the house with all those classified documents in it. At a certain point, it was like, go get some cover sheets because we have a problem. But I'm just curious, where's all the pictures of the classified they found in Biden's garage next to his Corvette? Why haven't we seen those? Why weren't those laid out with cover sheets and photographed and then released to the media? I mean, we know why, but dude, all this is the majority of these cases, all it is they are trying to do everything they can to keep Trump from getting reelected and put him in jail, which they're going to do. And even if they don't do it, he's going to do it for them. Kind of like we were talking about a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's all ridiculous. Trump could help himself in a lot of ways, but he can't do it because he's him.
That's fine, though, but he shouldn't have to. I mean, when they're staging docs like that, he shouldn't have to. It's like, hey, he didn't do anything illegal with that part, at least from what I've read and what I've seen. And it's like, hey, you know what? Again, I hope that there's a large part. It's disheartening. Like, I get local level politics, and you get people like Fannie Willis who can't wear a dress, with the zipper on the right side, that type of stuff. They run for office or that stuff. But you get like the FBI piece, and both of you guys have brought this stuff up. When the government has unlimited time and resources, they're going to find something. But now we're taking it a step farther, in my opinion, with this, right? It's not that they're going to find something. If they don't find something, they're going to create something. And I'm sure we got listeners out there that we've probably worked with in the past that we're all full of shit and this and that. I'm just, Josh, you brought up a valid point. You know what? You're absolutely right. Show me the photos with the documents drawn out on the floor of the Biden garage next to the Corvette with the top secret cover sheets on them for documents that he wasn't authorized to have as a U.S. senator. Right? It takes me to, you know what? If they don't have it, then they'll just make it up. And in this case, they had it. They obviously had evidence. They had the boxes and this and that. So yeah, the only reason they took that was, like you said, to prevent him from either running from office or to tarnish him so that way he can't get elected. Right.
So here's a question for both of you. If you were Donald Trump and you're coming out of your presidency with everything that is going on, all right, knowing that, but the establishment, and I'm going to use the establishment, you can call it the deep state or whatever, I call it the establishment, all right, it's both sides, it's the uniparty, knowing that both sides are hell-bent on destroying you, even after you leave office, when you go pick up your boxes from GSA, from the Congressional Archives, you look in those boxes and you go, you know what?
I'm
I don't
burning
know
that
if
shit.
I don't know if I'm taking all these classified documents, right? Which he is completely free to take. Every president and obviously vice president has done for
And
their
senators,
library.
clearly.
It's right. But do you think twice about it? If you're him, do you think twice and go, you know what, this is just something else? Or, and maybe it did happen, and not that he listened to his advisors. Maybe one of his advisors, was like, hey, boss, let's think about this real quick. Do you do that, knowing that they are looking for any little thing to come after you? And
You're asking,
it kind of goes back to my him getting out of his own way.
Well, you're asking us to put ourselves in the mindset of Donald Trump, probably one of the most unique individuals on the planet when it comes to his ego and his opinion of himself and so on and so forth. I think it's hard. Of course I wouldn't. but by the same token, I wouldn't run for office again, because I'll give Trump this, whether it's his ego, good or bad, whatever, dude is strong, man. To know that this is going to happen and be ready to fight, knowing now that, dude, this could cost me everything. Like, this could cost me everything. Do I think he's doing it for the good of the country? Probably not. I think it's his ego. He wants to solidify his name. He wants to solidify his brand, so it'll go down in history as the Trump brand. So I don't know. I mean, you can chalk it up to ego, like I said, but he's a strong dude. He knew that he didn't know everything that was going to happen, but he had to have some inkling that. So I guess to answer your question, I don't think he gave a crap. I don't think he cared. It's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I'm Donald Trump, and I want these documents here as proof that I can look back and see what I did, so on and so forth. Of course.
Yeah, and I don't completely disagree with Josh. I mean, there's times where he puts stuff out and you're just like, could you not? It's right up there with the Lindsey Graham national abortion ban. Like, they're just like, dude, can you not get out of your own way? Well, when I look at like the Stormy Daniels thing, and I'm with you guys. I mean, come on, like we all know what happened there. I think you can get into the nuances of, hey, did I direct that payment? Or, hey, man, like Michael Cohen, wanted to be the fixer, and he was just a fixer, and he just took care of stuff, right? So it's like, as long as you keep him out of jail, you do whatever. So, I mean, you can get into the weeds of all that stuff. None of us would have sat here a year ago or 2 years ago and said that, I'd tie the Stormy Daniels thing to federal election campaign fraud. Like, none of us made that. And so it brings me to my point that whether it was Stormy Daniels, whether it was the classified doc, they are going to make shit up. The only fortunate thing for Trump is that they're running out of time. So it looks like the only case that's going to be going, and by then I'm assuming it'll be finished, is the Stormy Daniels or the election campaign funds trial up in New York that's going on right now. It looks like everything else is going to be pushed off until after the election, which at that point it all becomes moot anyway, right? Because it'll either be the president and it'll all be thrown out, or he won't be president. Then I don't know, Josh. Do you think at that point, do they even care at that point if he loses? I mean, politically, he's got to be done if he loses.
Oh, they have to still care. They have to still
care. Yeah, no, they have to still care. They are too far down this road to off ramp. Trump is too far down this road to off ramp. They're absolutely going to care. They are not going to stop. Even if he wins the election, they're going to be like, okay, in 4 years, we're going to do this again. They are not going to stop until he is in jail. I'm telling you guys.
And it's not just about Trump. I'm telling you, it's not just about him. It's about an outsider. They have to keep going to show anyone who wants to stand up, whether that's Jeff Bezos or the president of what's his name, the president of the big bank, not Goldman Sachs. What's his name? Jamie Dimon. Yeah. Like, Jamie Dimon, you throw your hat in the ring, this is what's going to happen to you. RFK Jr., RFK Jr. is doing it, but they've turned him into a bad guy. He used to be the media darling, but it's like, you're an outsider trying to get in. No, not going to happen. So, I mean, they don't need to, go down the prosecutorial road with RFK Jr. because he's not going to win anything. Everybody knows that, but they have to make an example out of Trump. Now, Ron, anybody who could possibly be establishment, they're not going to make an example out of. They're just going to lose, go, or maybe they'll win president. Like, George W. Bush. They never tried to make an example out of him because he's part of
part of the cabal,
the establishment.
Yep.
But Trump is not. They can't control him. So yeah, I don't. They have to keep going. The heat might come off a little bit. They might come off a little bit, but he's definitely, yeah.
I just think you run the risk at that point. I mean, I think I can speak for everybody, regardless of what happens. If he's elected again, he goes another 4 years. I think they run, and again, this is all strategic play, whatever, who knows, 4 years, 6 years down the road, but you become the party of looking backwards when at that point, the Republican Party has moved forward, probably with Ron DeSantis. And if the Republican Party is moving forward to Ron DeSantis, the last thing I want to do as a Democrat is relitigate the Trump years. Because it's just, they're night and day. And DeSantis, as much as they've tried, the media tried early on to crown him as Trump 2.0, that's just not the case. I don't think that sticks during his next run. And I don't know that you want to be the party to litigate the past when you've got an RDS that's doing good things in Florida, looking at the future of the Republican Party.
Hey, what happens with, go ahead. I was just going to say, what happens with Ron DeSantis in the meantime? Because his term for governor is coming up. What does he do after that? He's already been in the Senate. So where do you go to keep that name recognition and that brand going? Like, Josh is a Florida guy. Like, what does he do next? Like, I don't know. Does Trump appoint, if Trump won, does he appoint him to a cabinet position? Probably. But what if Trump loses? What if Trump loses? What does DeSantis do?
So if Trump loses, then I think what you see is DeSantis go around and basically he writes a book. He low-level campaigns, in a sense. He goes on a speaking tour, this, that, and the other to keep he's going to keep that burner on simmer, for 2 years, or really for a year and some change, and then he's going to ramp up into campaign mode. If Trump wins, what Trump should do is either appoint him to a cabinet position, or more than likely, he'll appoint Ron
AG, baby.
He'll appoint Ron as the Attorney General, or he'll appoint him, give him an ambassador. He'll give him an ambassadorship somewhere. He'll make him an ambassador. Yeah, he will make him a significant, an ambassador in a significant capacity to give him that foreign policy experience.
You know what they should do though? If Trump loses, the GOP, which they won't do this, if Trump loses, right, come January 20th or 21st, whenever Inauguration Day is, hey, it is a full court press 3-year campaign. The GOP should get behind RDS, and I'm going to shit on this I'm going to shit on this admin for the next 3 years, and we are going into full campaign mode and put the pressure on for 3 years until the next election.
And campaign directly.
They won't do it. Absolutely. Because in my eye, and I don't know, maybe everybody didn't see it this way. My eyes, like, I think with what I've seen so far and with what he's doing in Florida, the turnout he's got, the support that he's had, that's the future of the GOP that you want. It's not a Nikki Haley. And I guess, the problem is going to be, it's going to be the Nikki Haley's out there and this and that don't support all that crap. But RDS, like, hey, you know what? GOP, you throw your weight behind the dude. He can win nationally. And you know what? You start campaigning 3 years ahead of time.
Get Vivek as his VP. Because I think the three of us have said, well, Roger and I have said, I don't know, Josh may have been, we might have started one of those late night threads and Josh wasn't a part of it. I feel bad for Josh's hour behind or ahead of it. But I said, I think, Roger, you agreed with me. It's like Vivek is just young. Dude just needs to grow up.
Yeah.
He needs to grow up. He needs to mature. He's not immature, he's not a child or anything, but he just needs to mature in the political sense and stop coming off as a car salesman because he's a little too polished, But I mean, I think that guy's got a bright future. I don't hate him. He said some stuff I definitely didn't agree with, and the shine kind of came off the apple. But then it occurred to me, it's like he's just kind of politically immature. It's just like, dude, just calm down. I've seen him mature a lot since the primaries. So I don't know. I got big hopes. He's ready for the presidency, but I mean, that might not be a bad VP pick for December. We're already talking about 2028.
Has anybody's political career taken an absolute Whitney Houston beating like Kristi Noem?
Nope.
in the last couple weeks.
Not even Anthony Weiner, dude. Even Weiner got away with, was like, finally, like, I just need to shut the F up. Or what was the dude? What was the dude? What's his face from South? Was it Edwards, right? Edwards that had like even them, they get to a point where you're just like, I'm just gonna stop talking now. And
did you hear
hope this goes away.
Yeah. It was like it was like Michael Evenatti, you know, all of a sudden, like he's the darling, and then 6 months later, like dude's in jail for whatever it was, like, you know, fraud and trying to scam Nike out of money and everything. Like, it was crazy. That dude went from CNN talking about this guy might be a potential VP hopeful, you know, candidate one day, you know, blah blah. Next thing you know, it's like, yeah, he got sentenced to prison for years.
Which do you think it is, Josh? Which do you think it is with Kristi Noem? Do you think that she did not read her own book before it went to print? Or do you think she's just that dumb to put a whole chapter in there called Bad Day to Be a Goat, a whole chapter about how she killed a goat? And then the dog thing, I mean, is she that dumb? Is she that out of touch? Or did she just not read her own book that a ghostwriter wrote?
Because
she didn't write that book.
No, she didn't write that book. I think it's a little bit of both, right? And so we talked about we talked about the whole dog thing, but her newest thing, she got called in an interview. She said she met Kim Jong-un and, you know, traveled to North Korea and met Kim Jong-un and went to the DMZ and stuff. And they were like, "What? Like, you've never met Kim Jong-un?" And she doubled down on it. Why would you, like? It's almost. I don't know if it's her. I don't know if she, you know, is like, well, I'm just going to throw this in there and, you know, let it ride and, you know, I'll just, you know, write it out. Or like somebody who was, you know, whoever she had ghostwrite that book, be like, hey, we're going to hook her up. We're going to hook her up. And maybe she didn't read it. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, man, she gets called, you know, in an interview on this. And she's like, well, yeah. Oh, but
she never denied it.
She
never denied it. She's like, I just don't talk about meetings with foreign leaders. It's like, girl, it's going to be pretty easy to prove that that didn't happen.
Yeah. You think? And dude, her like the dog thing was one thing, right? That was one thing. But now you're claiming to have met KJU, had been to North Korea and the DMZ. Like, come on. Like that's kind of verifiable. I mean, it's verifiable. Like, it's not going to take a whole lot. It's not going to take a whole lot to run to ground.
I mean, there's already got to be pictures out there, right? You can like gurgle that thing and see if it pops up. Surely there would be pictures on there.
Well, she was trying to play it off of that interview like it was some kind of like below the radar, top secret thing. And it's like, and the way she came off, it's like, this didn't happen. It's one more testimonial to, these are not our best and brightest who are our representatives. There are exceptions. But the general rule is these people aren't that smart. These people were chosen by PACs or people with a lot of money. We can control this person. They are not at any point the smartest person in the room as long as their staff is in the room. Their staff is the one making the calls. Their staff is the one doing all this. Kristi Noem is a pretty face. Roger says she's not without all her makeup. But she's a pretty face. She comes across, her South Dakota commercials are kind of cute, kind of funny. But she's obviously, it's just a lapse in judgment, like Josh was saying in the last episode. I love that part of the episode. It's like, you don't put it in a book. God. I mean, that's a whopper. North Korea, I mean, Kim Jong, that's a whopper, bro. That's, what, you could say you met her sister, his sister, but not him.
Now she's put out a statement. I've met with many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I should not have put that anecdote, not claim, right, in the book. And at my request, they have removed it.
Oh, so she should. Now it's an antidote.
You know what would happen? You know what happened, Josh? She mistook Shinzo Abe for Kim Jong.
She's like, they all look the same.
So in today's world, though, it's worse to be called a racist than just lying about meeting a world leader. So you could accuse her of being racist. You met one Japanese dude and thought it was the leader of North Korea. You're even racist. They all look alike.
She just needs to stop. Like, she just needs to stop talking. And you know what? For her, if you do have aspirations, of the White House, of VP, of a cabinet, shut up. Shut up for the next 2 years. Write a book. Make sure it's a good one. Make sure it's, it doesn't talk about killing dogs.
You mean hire a better ghostwriter, which she admits to, obviously.
Yeah. And then just, hey, find out what your party, what are the people rallying behind Donald Trump about? And you're the governor. Take that tack. All right. Like, take that tack. Dude, it's a fairly red state. But you're not gonna go wrong if you take the tack of, the most popular GOP candidate right now and ride that way with them. But no, you gotta, God, this is the GOP continues to fail.
But come on, man, not one of her advisors, like we sit here and talk about it, even the staffers, right? We talk about not being smart, and none of us are, we're not political. I mean, Luke's probably the closest ever, between the three of us has ever been an insider, to kind of see some of the behind the curtain stuff, right? But like, not one person on her staff was like, hey, this is not a good idea. Seriously?
It's hard though. It's hard because maybe one of her staffers did. Maybe one of her staffers was like, this is not a good idea. And she was like, yep, noted.
The dictator's dilemma, right? Is that what it's called, Josh?
The authoritarian's dilemma.
Authoritarian's dilemma. I bet it was something like that, where somebody identified, some low, mid-level staffer identified, it's like, look, this is not a good idea. Went to the chief of staff and said, hey, can you approach the governor with this? Because I don't think this is going to play well. And then the chief of staff is like, no, she's fine with it. I bet you that's it. I bet you that somebody did identify it at the mid-level, went up to the chief of staff, and the chief of staff never put it in front of her. No, I bet you anything.
You hope.
I mean, dude, because this stuff is...
It's a simple... to me, that's the simplest explanation.
I mean, again, we're not professional, obviously we're not professional politicians, and we can identify this stuff like quick, right? Because we have spent, decades of, okay, if this happens, what's the second and third order effects? And how does this play out on the front page of the Washington Post? We have done a lot of that, right? Because you're thinking about some of the things that we've done. You're like, this might not play well on the front page of the Washington Post if this just kind of gets sideways on us. But we'll figure it out. But yeah, it's just like, but I'm sure if we can identify it, I am positive the professionals have, and but I would hope so anyway. If not, hey, any good politician out there, if you want to pay me to help you out, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, like how does molten plastic raining down on the children of Raqqa play on the front page?
Yeah, exactly.
Great idea, guys. Great idea. But yeah, we can't do this.
Dude, when they tested that thing, I was like, this is legit. We are.
Can we talk about that?
I want one. Yeah, I just say, yeah, I mean, what I can say is we had a problem with being able to see, in Syria. We were taking a look at a city during the Defeat ISIS campaign, and these smart, these smart booger eaters put up basically tarps over the streets, and so you couldn't see what was going on the streets, from the air. And so somebody was like, well, let's just burn the tarps. And so it was like,
well, how would we do that, Josh?
Well, if you can, it can be done, tested and proven. You can put a flamethrower on a drone. And this was years ago, right? So I mean, this is the one that just came out. This was years ago. And then somebody asked a question, was like, okay, so we're gonna set the plastic hanging above the streets on fire. Okay. What happens to it then? They're like, well, if it falls down onto the street. It was like, okay, where the people are, where the average, Syrians just trying to get through their day, without getting schwacked by ISIS. Yeah. All right. And they're going to be under the plastic that's falling from the sky on fire. Well, yeah. It's like, okay. Maybe we need to find a different COA, because covering people in burning plastic is not where we want to be.
Th-
Everybody
there's a
remembers
very-
that, napalm sticking to the kids,
Yes,
from
yes.
Vietnam. Be like, we don't need that. We don't need that to
Yeah,
play out again.
probably the second most famous picture to come out of Vietnam was that one.
Yeah.
If not the first. I think I would argue that the first was that South Vietnamese general executing that Viet Cong dude in the streets of wherever it was. That's brutal. That's a brutal picture, I guess. But so no, I'm gonna change my thing. It was the girl with the napalm on her running down the street naked. That
Her skin flame.
that one, that's brutal. That can lose a war for you. Well, it can definitely contribute to it. But
Oh yeah.
so they sell those drones. Now you can buy them. They have a flamethrower on them, and we were sending that back and forth. It's like I sent it to my daughters like Christmas ideas, and I think one of you guys, or maybe she did, sent me one where it's, or maybe it was Darren, sent me one where it's like one of those robotic dogs with a flamethrower on it. You know those ones from Black Mirror? I was like, oh, dude. So I sent it to a guy who occasionally listens named Jesse, and I was like, this is it. This is it for our guerrilla campaign if it ever has to happen. And he's like, he's looking at the price. He's a very analytical guy. He's like, okay, the price, interesting. Would you take that or NVGs, like thermal? I was like, yeah, I'd go with thermal. I'd have to make the smart decision. You need thermal. You need to be able to fight at night, right, Roger?
It just actually reminds me of the whole, you remember Robot Wars? I think it's still on TV where they had, and you had like a flamethrower. Dude, that's where that stuff came from. Like you had the drones. I'm like, okay, because like when drones first came out, they sucked. I bought one for my son years ago when they finally became affordable for like us to buy. And I actually it was about 8 years ago. So I bought one for my boy. It lasted all of 3 minutes. I took it outside with him. I flew it up, ran right into a tree, and it was done. And then now, though, you've got stabilizers on there. They fly, waypoints or whatever. But one of these folks saw like Robot Wars with like the flamethrower and one of these remote control. Like, oh yeah, dude, we just put it on a drone, man. We just light that bad boy up. It's awesome. Love it.
I mean, that would be a rich guy toy. Like if I won the lottery, I would definitely have a flamethrowing drone and a flamethrowing robotic dog. Those would be my fun toys, and a flamethrower, a handheld flamethrower. Those things are on the internet. They're pretty reasonably priced, but definitely the stuff you have to have thermal. You have to have thermal. Like if you're going to be serious, or not thermal, but just night vision, you got to have that. It's a must have. If I had the money, I'd have it in my house right now.
How much is night vision now? I mean,
oof, it's still pretty expensive, man. It's still damn near prohibitively expensive to get something. Like if you're just going to go out and shoot, coyotes at night or something, yeah, you can get something that's passable for $2,500, maybe. Wow. That's probably low.
Cheaper than that.
No, I mean something that's decent, that's going to hold a zero, that's going to mount right. But like for high end stuff, dude, you're talking like $10,000-$12,000. Like for head mounted, like good stuff, like $10,000-$12,000. And then you got to have a PEC on there, to lay. You got to have that, man. That is crucial.
And that's how you end up with that's how you end up with the 100-pound rifle.
So, okay, let me ask you guys this. I went to the range this weekend, and I am woefully ignorant on Texas gun laws and gun laws in general. But this range was pretty cool. It was very reasonably priced. The range control they were okay. They were pretty cool. But in the gun shop, they had a lot of cool stuff in there, and they had those short, AR-15, pistol with the, stock that folds out, right? And I'm like, and they had price tags on them, and I'm like, wow, dude, you can buy this stuff? Do you have to have a tax stamp for that? To have those, like, it's super short, man. It was crazy. If Grant's listening, Grant, I guarantee you right now, Grant is yelling at me. He's like, you ought to know this. You ought to know this. You live in Texas. I have this and that. But it's like, you can just buy that, or do you got to have a tax stamp or something?
It's a pistol brace.
You're fine.
Yeah, there's no tax stamp required for the pistol brace. It's not an NFA item. So
it's not.
No, it's not. So they went back and forth. So the ATF tried to regulate pistol braces. Was it last year, year before last? They came out and the ATF, in their unconstitutional operation and existence. I loathe the ATF more than I probably loathe the ATF as much as I loathe communist. So they came out and said, okay, we're going to regulate pistol braces. It's basically going to be an NFA item, and you have X number of days, months to register them or turn them in. Okay, and so I forget how many millions of pistol braces are in circulation right now, but basically, not even 1% of them got registered. Basically, the John Q. Public said, "Get bent," come and take it. And so then there was some lawsuits filed, some injunctions, and it's gone back and forth. And it's going to, part of a larger case, get heard, probably go to the Supreme Court. It's going to be kind of akin to, I think it was the Department of Energy case. It was like, okay, how much power do these federal agencies have to make law, to enact law, right? And come out and say, we've talked about it before. But they came back. Yeah, man, you can buy a pistol brace. You don't need, it's not an NFA item. Me personally, if I'm going to buy a pistol brace, I'm buying it with cash. And the second, and I don't know if Texas does this or not. I know, North Carolina does not, but some states did do this. I saw this, people talking about it on gun Twitter or gun X, whatever we're calling it now. Basically, it was like you had to fill out a form, but it wasn't a federal form. But it was like when you bought a pistol brace, it was like, oh, well, we got to take your basically your PII. And it was like, yeah, you can get bent. You can get straight bent. Like if you buy gunpowder, if you buy powder in Maryland to reload, they take they scan your driver's license. And you're like, you can get bent.
With pistol brace, I ask you guys this because I look at something like that, and that's super cool. It looks super cool. It does. It looks like the movies and stuff, right? But the platform that I used to have that I lost in a tragic boating incident is perfect. I don't need anything else, right? If I was driving, I think I could still operate it if it was right there. It is, it's a long gun, it's AR platform. But what do I need that super short barrel, pistol brace thing? Explain to me, like, why would I need that? Why do I need that? I don't see why I need it. And why does the ATF find it so dangerous? Because you can put it in a backpack.
It doesn't matter why you need it.
Well, I know it doesn't matter, but I'm saying from a practical standpoint, what would you use that for?
Why wouldn't you use it for? Well, you look at just pistols anyway, right? So the pistol brace, I think, and Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think one of the, the big differentiators is like there's no buffer spring in it. It's primarily designed to rest up against the forearm or whatever. And so when you look at a pistol, look at when you went to the range. Obviously it'd be nice to have some stability there if you're aiming or whatever, if you're in competition. What the ATF doesn't like is the fact that you can basically have an SBR without the tax stamp, without waiting, and in theory throw it in a backpack, just like it's stupid. Okay, it's dumb because I can do that with a pistol. I can do that with like my regular Sig Sauer. I can carry it anywhere I want to. It's just dumb. Their whole explanation for it is, well, you basically are able to get an SBR without having a tax stamp. That's what it comes down to. But
I'm not getting my question answered. I'm like from a practical standpoint, why would you want it? I know it's cool. That's not practical.
Why wouldn't
being
you?
cool is
like,
not,
so when you go out and you go shoot, are you not more accurate with having a brace?
I don't
I'm
have
answering your
weapons
questions
so that I can go out to shoot. I'm saying like I have weapons so that under what the Second Amendment says. That's what I have. I don't hunt anymore. I should. I'm saying if I'm going to spend money on, if I'm going to spend $3,400 on a platform, why not just buy $3,400 worth of 223 5.56? What do I need an SBR for? Practically, what would I use that for other than to go out in the range and look cool? Like I'm saying, what are
it's
the
underneath
tactical...
my trench coat a lot easier.
Oh, Jesus. Well,
So-
okay, then. Now you're being honest.
So it depends, right? It comes down to it's easier to use in a confined space. All right. So let's say if you use some people are like, hey, my 5.56 platform, that is my home defense weapon. Okay. If I have chosen that as my home defense weapon, then the SBR is very practical. Okay, because I would rather have, a platform with a 10-inch barrel trying to move through my house, to deal with whatever I need to deal with than having, a 16, 18, 20-inch barrel. If I'm in a vehicle and I need to, I drive, let's say I drive into a crowd. The next thing I know, I'm in the middle of a bunch of, Columbia University students that are, trying to break my windows open and stuff. It's a whole lot easier for me to maneuver that SBR in that confined space inside a vehicle than it is, a regular long gun. So, I mean, it comes down to it's easier to use a confined space. If I need to transport it, if I need to, go somewhere, if I want to take it with me, let's say I'm going into the backcountry, I can slap that thing to the side of a backpack a whole lot easier than a regular, than a long gun.
Definitely
Right?
weighs
So, I mean,
less.
Yeah, it weighs less. It's easier to use in confined space. I mean, and that's really
what's the performance issues with those? If it has no buffer spring, all that stuff. I mean, you don't want to get into a sustained gunfight with an SBR. That's for sure, right? It's like you said, it's going to have to be confined spaces.
Well, don't confuse an SBR with a pistol, because an SBR, so with the no buffer and stuff, you're talking about the pistol, and I have to go back and look, but I think the pistols still have a buffer because that gas has got to go somewhere and it's still got to function. An SBR is simply the way the ATF defines an SBR is any barrel shorter than 14 inches.
I think these are SBRs. I don't think they're pistols. But yeah, I hear you. With home defense though, like home defense, my rifle is not for that. Even though I could use it for that, I've got other platforms I use, namely shotgun. And after watching the Chappelle, you remember birdshot, buckshot, and then you remember that? I actually thought about that for a while, and it's like, that's not a bad idea. I don't have that ammunition set up in my shotgun, but that's for home. That and a pistol. The rifle is not for home defense. It could be used for home defense, but first of all, I don't have it set up for home defense. But yeah, I don't know. I think if I got, if I did, splurge a little bit and got one of those little things, which are so cool, I'm trying to justify getting one. I don't know if I'd use it for home defense, man. I mean, that's a 223 5.56 is no joke, man. I mean, that thing's going through walls. You better, your target selection's got to be on point,
I guess it depends on where you live. If you're out here like Arizona where everything's stucco, and you might not just go through your walls, but you might go through your neighbor's walls. It's going to shoot through drywall, the chicken wire, the stucco, and into the neighbor's house. I think at the end of the day, it's I was talking about the stock. Can that have a buffer spring in it if it's a pistol brace?
So the brace itself doesn't, but the AR pistol has a buffer.
No, I was talking about the stock itself, the brace itself. I thought years ago that was one of the things that it couldn't have one, but I could be wrong.
It doesn't have a buffer. It's basically a stock with the big Velcro strap on it for you to wrap around your forearm, so you can.
Yeah, I guess my point was I thought there was a ruling back in the day that the ATF said it can't have the buffer spring in it. That was one of the differentiators. And again, I could be wrong. This stuff. So I think more importantly, it comes down to what Josh is saying, what authority does the ATF have when they're an unelected body to regulate or to attempt to regulate? But, here's two things to this. One, it's like, and I'm not saying this to be an asshole to Luke, but hey, you know what? Maybe I want to buy it because I got a bonus or I got my tax money back and I just want to buy something cool. And so I should be able to do it.
I'm asking.
Well, no, hold on. Let me finish. And I just want to buy it. So I should just be able to buy it. The thing that really pisses me off with a lot of this stuff is I wish I had all the money in the world. Like I wish I had Elon Musk money. because I don't know. Well, no, I didn't miss his point. I think he missed my point. We're like two ships passing in the night. So I wish I had all the money to file civil suits, because wouldn't that be, as the ATF and as these states continue to file these laws that they're continuously shot down at SCOTUS, they're continually shot down in federal appeals courts. Like, at what point, and again, I'm not, none of us are legal experts, but would you have some ability to, like, hey man, you violated my civil rights with this stuff here? Right? I mean, to me, it's like, I wish I had the money that, hey, if you violated my, which to me, it would be a violation of my civil rights. Like, I want to sue the government, because what prevents the ATF or any other state, as you see California, every time a gun law, what do? They propose a gun law, state gun law. It passes. Governor signs it in. It takes 2-3 years. It goes to court, gets shot down. And what do? They legislate another law. So what's the recourse from that? I mean, outside of changing your elected officials, as Joe's citizen, shouldn't I be able to, like, hey, you just violated my civil rights?
Yeah. I want to be clear. Look, I want to be clear to the audience, not necessarily to Roger. If I had the money, that FU money, like Josh was saying the other day, I wish I had some FU money, because he was talking about something similar to what Roger was just talking about. I would have bought that thing. That's not what I'm saying. It's like, I agree with you 100%. I should be able to buy it. I wasn't making that argument. It's like, why should someone be able to buy this? My thing was like, why would I need it other than to have a cool toy, right? That's all I was saying. I definitely agree. Anybody should be able to buy something like that. 100%. I'm with you. I just want to make that clear to the audience. It's like, I'm not against people buying stuff like that. It's like, but what's the functionality? Because one of the things, as I said, I would kick it to Josh. I'm sorry. But one of the things I was going to say is the three of us and many, many of our listeners who are, far more skilled than we are, we're very proficient with our AR platforms. Your go-to AR platforms. I'm very, very proficient with it compared to your average Joe, right? You take this guy down the street who doesn't listen. He's got like a 300 blackout and all this stuff. He's got all this cool gear. He's got an old Vietnam era M4, fully automatic. He's got all this cool stuff. But it's like, this guy, he's got stuff he doesn't need. It's like, why don't you take just an old M16A2 and get super proficient at that? Why don't you just get proficient at one thing? Because all these short SBRs and all this stuff that you have is wasted on you. Because I'm far more proficient with my M4 than you are with any of that stuff. So I guess all I'm saying is my M4 is like, or my AR platform, the one I used to have, is good enough for me. It's like, I don't need a bunch of fancy stuff. In fact, I should probably focus on getting more proficient with what I have before I start, trying to trick it out and, making it all cool. So I don't know, talk for a long time. I agree though, Roger. If you had that Elon Musk type money, oof, man, you could definitely stick it to the man. That's for sure.
I'm reading this post that Josh, he posted the whole ATF ruling, and it's like, option number 3, forfeit firearm to ATF. They are high as all get out. Destroy firearm. Whatever, dude.
Yeah, it was. I tell you, who would be able to really break this down into, really get into the minutia of it is Admiral Dave. Because obviously, like, he has, he's a big firearms guy, and he shoots competitively, and everything. But I agree with Luke in a sense of, most people don't need a $3,400 AR platform to shoot. The stuff that's coming out of places like Palmetto State Armory, you can buy an AR platform from Palmetto State for way less than $1,000. And most people, not all, will never be able to, they will never be able to shoot up to the capability that platform will give them. You don't need a $3,400, SIG MCX platform that has all the bells and whistles on it, because that $500 PSA platform, you're not gonna, you're not gonna outdo its capability. So, save yourself some money, folks. The majority of folks don't need that, a multi-$1,000 AR platform. You can do it with something pretty basic.
I equate it to golf clubs and bicycles, right? You can go out and spend an inordinate amount of money on golf clubs, right? Same thing with like racing bicycles. You can spend so much money, but you're wasting your money because your skill level does not match those clubs or the bicycle. You'd be better served to get the lower end stuff until you master the sport. Now, with pros, with PGA pros or professional cyclists, those high end bikes are the difference between winning and losing. I mean, it takes milliseconds and seconds off your time. But if you're just some jerk off who decide, who is, they have a 17 handicap, or you just took up cycling, don't go buy the most expensive stuff. Hone your skill, learn on the stuff, that's available, that's affordable, and then move up. I love this conversation. This is a really good point, Josh.
I think a lot of people, like you're saying, like get something entry level and then invest your money in some quality training. Invest your money in quality training with that. And once you get, proficient and everything, then you can bump your gear up a little bit. But go ahead.
Can I ask you, I remember we used to go to some of these courses, put on by, private companies where they teach you how to shoot. And a few of them were really good. I mean, really good. How much, I don't recall how much it costs per person to go through like a week-long course, shooting, moving, all this stuff. How much were those like per person? Like, what do you think? 10,000 more? I think Roger, 2,000 per person for a week. Really?
Yeah, I was about to say Roger have a better answer because he actually said
depending on what you had all entailed with it, but like for basic, it's like $2,000 a week, dude. It's not crazy.
If this guy down the street that I'm talking about, if he invested, because you should see his gun count is freaking crazy. If he just had one platform, one AR platform with just the basics on it, and he had not spent all the money on the other crap he doesn't need, and he would have invested like multiple weeks at Crucible, I would have a lot higher opinion of that guy. It'd be like, oof, wow, this guy's well trained. It's a good point, Josh, as usual. Like, invest in ammo, if anything. If you can't afford the training all at one time, spend that money on ammo and just spend more time, spend more trigger time, dude. What makes the best operator so good, Josh? What makes them so good at shooting?
They master the fundamentals. It's one of those, you don't do it until you get it right. You do it until you can't get it wrong. And it goes back to the fundamentals. Yeah.
Wow.
Which nowadays is very expensive to do, right? with the cost of ammo, it's hard. But I think, and we've got one guy, he didn't listen, but we know him and he shoots a lot. And I think, what you guys totally agree with what you're saying. The other thing that you do is when you invest your money in modifying that weapon, you start to make tweaks to it that are actually going to help you, right? Versus, hey man, like you said, I'm going to get the bike, I'm going to get all the bells and whistles on it, and then realize that I don't need half this shit. And I was reading one of his posts earlier, and it actually, I never even thought about it, but he was talking about changing out the magazine release button because his hands are a little bit smaller. And I didn't realize, like, I've seen extended magazine release buttons, but I've never seen ones that are angled back. And I was like, ooh, because my hands aren't overly large, and like with the P320, it's a thicker base, or a thicker grip. But I was just sitting there like, man, that's one of those things that, like you said, if you've gone out and you put 4 or 5 days shooting, you're going to like, you know what? I need to tweak this. I need to tweak that. This is what I'm looking for. Hey, what's the solution for this? So then when you start modifying your weapon, you're modifying it to your capabilities, your abilities, and actually improve, what you're able to do, as opposed to, the 100-pound rifle that's got everything on it and can't use half of it. Right.
What were you saying earlier? Roger and I had a conversation. It was supposed to be about something else, and we ended up talking about guns for like 20 minutes. You were saying something earlier, Roger. You were talking about how you're going to go out to the range with your pistol, your P320, I believe you were talking about.
Yep.
And you were going to start shooting from a certain range. Remember that?
Yeah.
Let's repeat that conversation. Include Josh because I'd like his input on this.
So I have an optic on my P320, and from the old Army training, we always zero out it, or you qualify at 25 meters. And I just started. Well, one, my eyes are getting bad. And I don't wear glasses to the range, so I can't even see 25 meters. First of all, so if you're gonna shoot me and you're 25 meters away, you're gonna get the first round off because I can't see jack past that. But I started, as I'm, iron sights is easy, is what it is on the pistol. But with a red dot, you got to go and zero out thing. You got to make adjustments to it. And as I started doing, really thinking about it, no longer in military life, civilian life, and around here, around the house, looking at the grocery store and looking at situations that I would be in where I would actually draw my weapon and pop off some rounds. And Josh, I'll throw this to you. I think I'm really going to zero my red dot to probably 10 yards because I'm just looking at, at the grocery store, around my neighborhood, whatever. Like, am I really going to pull my weapon out to engage? Not to say that it can't happen, but again, you look at risk and probability. Like, what's the odds? We were talking about like the church guy. What are the odds that I'm going to pull my pistol out and try to engage somebody at 50 yards? I mean, at this point in my life, I'm probably just going to look for cover, right? Unless you've got my kid held hostage or, some crap like that, or my wife's in between us or whatever. So I think I'm really considering looking at probably going to 10 yards for my zero because I just, beyond that, and it doesn't have to be exactly 10, maybe eyeball it a little bit, but beyond that, I don't know. Do you get to a point where would you pull your pistol out to engage? Understanding there are situations you would, but the 99.9% rule, what does that look like?
So I think 15 yards would be, about that, right? So I just pulled it up real quick. 93.1% of shootings occur between 3 and 7 yards, and more than 80% occur at 3 to 5 yards.
Wait. Can you say that again?
93.1% of shootings occur between 3 and 7 yards, and more than 80% occur at 3 to 5 yards.
So tell us the 21, remind the audience of the 21-foot rule. So the 7-yard meter rule.
So the 21 is 21 feet. All right. So 21 feet. Police did a study. I forget when. I wish we had Admiral Dave on this episode. Because you could really break it all down in minute detail. So, but 21 feet. Somebody can close the distance. Generally speaking, someone can close the distance of 21 feet with you before you can draw your firearm. When you think about it, I forget how many seconds. It's very, very quick.
And get a shot off.
Yeah,
so
before you can pull your firearm and get a shot off, they can close that 21-foot distance. And this has been done. That study's been replicated time and time again. And it's just it almost always comes out the same 21 feet. And you got to think 21 feet's a decent distance of somebody being from you, especially being a threat. Because most people who are going to be a threat and up in your face, obviously, like they're a couple of feet from you, not 21. 21's a decent distance away. When you really think about how far somebody is away from you, you're like, well, I'll have plenty of time. You won't. All right. Because they can be on you before you can, okay. Unless you're a trained gunfighter, most people cannot draw their concealed weapon and get a round off prior to somebody being, closing that distance with you. Again, it goes back to where you live. It goes back to, what weapon you're carrying. Right. So if I'm carrying my Glock 19 and something goes down at 25 yards, 30 yards, it depends. Maybe.
God damn.
Because I can cover 25 yards with a pistol. All right. Now, if I'm carrying my SIG 365 XL at 25 yards, am I trying to shoot somebody with that thing? No, that thing's got like a 3.2 inch barrel on it. I'm not trying to shoot somebody at 25 yards of that because I'm probably going to wind up and shoot somebody else. because it's so small, it's not that accurate. And so if I'm carrying that, yeah, man, and I don't even have a red dot on that one because that's also, one of those things too. And the whole red dot thing, some people are for them, some people hate them. It's, hey, what are you comfortable with? What are you proficient with? If you're going to put it on your weapon system, then go get proficient with it. Doesn't matter. Some people will go back and forth with you. Should you have a red dot, on a pistol? Should you not have a red dot on a pistol? Should you use a prism sight? Whatever. It doesn't matter. Just go get proficient with whatever you have.
It's like bourbon, right?
Yeah. Dude, the only correct way to drink bourbon is however you like it.
There you go.
You get some folks who are like, oh no, you don't put ice in it, you don't put water in it. It's like, hey man, how do you like to drink it? You like to put ice in it, you like to put water in it, then drink it exactly how you like to mix it with Coke, then mix it with Coke.
Yeah, I know a bunch of chicks that like it with ice.
But on the weapon thing, generally speaking, and the same thing, for me, man, if it's more than, definitely 50 yards, I'm not trying to shoot anybody at 50 yards, man, because that means I have time to go find somewhere, to post
exactly,
up.
Or to close the distance if you had to.
But yeah, I would say for me, it all depends on the situation. Am I in a parking lot? Am I at a mall? Because a mall, obviously, the space is a lot more open, but you're still confined. Grocery store, generally speaking, man, what's the distance between, down in a grocery store aisle? It's not that far when you really think about it. I mean, somebody who really wanted to, they could cover that aisle fairly quick. It just all depends. And it depends on what weapon system you're carrying. Like I said, at Glock 19, I can reach out and, touch somebody a little bit further than I can with my, my little 365.
All situational dependent, like you said. And it all boils down, in my opinion, to practice and repetition and muscle memory. That 21-foot rule, like Josh said, man, if you're standing 7 meters away from somebody, it seems like a long way. I could do a lot with this, man. When they're charging at you, you just can't believe how fast that distance is covered, even by an old man. Like I could close 7 feet with a knife real quick, and I'm 50 years old. And we ran through these drills over and over and over again in these training courses we went to, and how we were trained to deal with that. It all has to do with stance. A threat stance. You perceive a threat, you get into a stance, the way you draw your weapon, and it was just repetition over and over and over again. But the thing is, also, we weren't truly concealed during those. We might have had a shirt, like a untucked shirt over it. That's not truly concealed. That's not an appendix carry. So when you're talking appendix carry, right, that's a whole different drawing, motion. So it's like, you got to practice on this stuff. Don't take what we're saying. It's like 21 feet. I'll be able to draw it concealed. No matter. That's not what we're saying. You have to continuously practice at it. And that's what, Roger, the guy you mentioned earlier, I'm going to say his name. His name's Marty. I don't care. Whatever. He doesn't listen, but he practices a lot. He practices a lot. And I said this to Roger and Josh the other day. It's like, Marty is kind of a loose cannon, but in a gunfight, I want him on my side. And I definitely don't want to go against him in a gunfight because, man, that guy practices a lot. It's all about practice, man. It's just dry fire. Just practice your draw, all that stuff. I'm a big believer in that,
Well,
and it's your 7 meters. Whew.
Well, I mean, it's a part of being a responsible gun owner as well, is being proficient with your weapon system. Because if I'm going to pull, one thing people don't understand, I would say, well, I'll say some people don't understand, some do, but once you have made the conscious choice to draw your weapon, then you better be ready to use it. One, not only does that mean you need to understand how to use it, you need to be proficient with it. There's, because there's going to be probably innocent bystanders around, they need you to be proficient with that. But you need to be ready you have to be ready to take someone's life with that thing. And it comes down to being proficient. So I just got a new holster in the mail today. I ordered a belly band holster from this company.
No kidding.
Yeah. Because Well, I just got it today. I haven't even I took it out of the packaging and messed with it a little bit, but I mean, I like the idea of it. And it came recommended by a couple different people. But it's, because it's getting warm here, and I'm going into t-shirts and, basically running shorts attire for at least until probably November. Uh, where I probably won't put on pants again until then. And so, but I still want to be able to carry. And it's, it's hard to carry in a pair of running shorts, when you're carrying, your pistol and magazine and, all the other accoutrements. So I got a belly band, and, though, the first part that made me feel good about it is I may have ordered it and it might be too big. So
I was going to ask you what size you got. Did you get that double XL? You got the extender. It's like it's like sitting on an airplane where you had the seatbelt and you're like, the extension clip.
Yeah. So I felt so automatically taking it out of the bag. I was like, oh yeah, I feel pretty good about this. Maybe feel good about myself. But yeah, so now the next thing is, hey man, put that thing on and just repetition, dry fire. Right. And being able to, safely, pull it and get to work on it. But I'll do that time and time again before I even take it to the range and try it then, because I mean, you, like Luke said, you're coming from concealed where you're going fully up under a t-shirt, or appendix carry, and if you're doing that. But it's just it's getting out there and getting proficient with whatever weapon system that you have. And I tell you, one of the things that I really appreciated from the training that that we got was they made it simple. Because a bunch of us are
less is more, man. Less is
more. And it was, especially from the fighting standpoint, it was like, you don't have a different stance for your shooting, and you don't have, and then have a different stance for your fighting. They're the same. So that when your adrenaline is pumping, you don't have to try and remember all these really fine motor skills. It's all gross motor skills. And it's my shooting stance is my fighting stance, and my fighting stance is my shooting stance. And it just really dumbed it down and made it simple.
Going a little deep, not deeper into that, but one of the things they taught, and I was just doing it on camera, and Roger did that. The thing is, like, when you're scared, right? If you're not scared, but if you're startled, and your limbic system and your limbic system kicks in, and you get that immediate jolt of adrenaline, right? You're standing out in a quiet place, and then there's a loud noise, and it startles you. Every human being has the same response, and it's built into us. It's deep inside our limbic system. Your knees slightly bend, your back slightly arches, your hips get below you, and your hands go up. Your hands go up. Like, if you can see in the video, your hands go up like that. That's where these people were so good. They started there. They started with your natural response to, that immediate jolt of adrenaline, and your limbic system bringing your hands up like that. It's like Josh was saying, your shooting stance is the same as your fighting stance. That's where it started. And it was like, it really drew the curtain back. The first time I went to that course like 6 times. I loved it, but it was just a real eye opener. It was like, this totally makes sense. How did a bunch of recon Marines think of this shit? Well, Marines, they work with what they have. It was pretty smart.
He just called a bunch of Marines a bunch of crayon eaters, a bunch of dummies.
Well, they are.
The good thing is we only have like 15 listeners, because if we were like Tucker Carlson, we'd have a bunch of people out there trying to kick our ass now. I don't need people sitting out my door trying to, kick my crippled ass. But
these guys literally did kick our asses, though. I mean, like, literally, they had their chance.
That's true. And I think, what Josh says, it's so funny, because my wife always, she doesn't pick on me, but so we go out to eat with the family or whatever. And, I appendix carry. And before I leave the house, I take about 5 minutes, man. And I just draw, right? I just do straight draws. And I do, 3, 4, 5 minutes, make some adjustments here and there. And just to get used to, because every shirt you wear is different. The elasticity is different, how hard I have to pull, this and that, which, of course they teach you 100%, right? Every time you just pull. But the reality is everything you wear is different. So I take like 5 minutes. I just do straight draws, straight draws, straight draws. And she's like, "Are you done yet?" I'm just like, "Hey, man, I haven't had to do it, but in the moment that I have to do it, again, it's just all about practice and proficiency. It's just like you need to continue and not even firing around out of it. I just need to make sure I can get that, that good, crisp, clean draw, get it out from underneath my garment and be able to, get that sight picture. But, and again, I think that's a lot of that stuff that you can do, from home. And it's like you're saying that the fundamentals, man, they'll take you a long way.
Oh yeah. So Josh mentioned, the feeling pretty good about himself because, his waist size is, getting down to, manageable level. And that's really good. And he's worked really hard.
He just hit 39 inches the other day. So yeah, man, you're good. Couple more inches to go.
39 and a half.
We get to give each other crap and stuff, but Josh has been pretty disciplined over it's been a while, man. It's been months and he's dropped a lot of weight. I'd say, at least according to Josh. But lately, I was talking to the guys about this when I said, maybe I'll bring this up on the podcast. And so I'm bringing it up now. I grew up a skinny kid, like super skinny, like deathly skinny in high school. And that was a recipe for having a low self-esteem since our heroes growing up in the 80s were Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone. And yeah, I haven't been wearing my watch lately. I thought I covered that 2 episodes ago.
Whatever, dude.
Anyway.
Don't try to justify your zero.
So I've got a complex, right? I've got like body dysmorphia. I've got to get big. I got to get big and strong. So I've been on a kick lately where it's just like, well, not lately. It's been since basically January. It's like I want to pack on strength and muscle, eating relatively clean, but like bulking, right? I want to put on weight. And my goal is 225. And once I get to 225, I'll start cutting and I want to get down to about 202 pounds. That's my thing. Cause that's what Rocky fought Apollo Creed at, was 202 pounds. That's also where Rocky
was
fought,
like 5'6" too.
Yeah. Well, not in the movie. In the movie, he's supposed to be tall. But anyway, my thing is this though, man. This is the point I'm getting to. And I want to get you guys to input on this. Putting on weight, like putting on like quality weight, I could get fat. That's easy. But again, we talked about this early on when Josh and I had the, weight loss contest. Is like when I start eating bad and stop working out, I actually lose weight because I start putting on fat and the muscle just goes away. It's just how my body's built. I look like a horrible human being, piece of crap. But when I start trying to put on muscle like I'm doing now, I'm trying to eat a lot of protein, I'm lifting heavy weights for low reps, it's very, very difficult to put on weight. It was easier for me to drop weight when Josh and I were having our contest than it is to put on weight. Far easier. And it's just that the progress is so slow. But what I'm learning in this is I'm going to the gym and I'm lifting this heavy weight. And I texted you guys this the other day. I was like, this is absolutely worthless. Being big and strong, the only thing that does for you, like being the broad shoulders, the big back, the only thing that does for you is stave off threats before they happen. That's a big person. I'm not going to pick on them. I'm going to pick on the smaller guy. That's it. Because what I'm seeing in the gym is, yeah, I can lift some heavy weight. I can push around some weight, but I'm winded after every set. Walking around, I sweat more. It's like it's worthless. Being big is worthless. So it's like I'm at about 220, 221 right now. I'm about to scrap this. I don't need to get to 225. I need to get in shape. I need to be harder to kill. Because how many times in combat do you need to bench press, X amount of weight? You don't. It's totally not functional. It's not functional at all. Just throwing that out there. It's harder to put on muscle than to lose fat. That's at least in my body type.
I don't think it's for nothing. Right. So I've been trying to be consistent, but I've been consistent, and you've been consistent in the gym, lifting, putting up and, picking up and putting down heavy things for a while too. But at the end of the day, you're like, no, it's for nothing. It's not for nothing. Right. So Pat Mac, for those who don't listen to him, right. But there's 4 reasons you should work out every day. And he's a big guy, he's a big dude, even if it's just going for a walk, doing something, but actually like putting some stress on your body, right? There's 4 reasons you should work out every day. Is longevity, right? Lotion is motion, or motion is lotion, as he says. He's like, you can't let that car sit, and just sit there. Remember when we would, show up Motor Pool Mondays, and it's like they just sit here and they have all these leaks and all these problems because they just sit there, right? You have to move them, you have to drive it. All right, that's your combat chassis, as he puts it. Number 2, the ability to save your life. That's why you should work out. That's why you should be strong. All right. Number 3, the ability to save someone else's life. If you had to pick something off of somebody, if you got to pick somebody up and get them out of the way of something, you can do that because you can pick up and put down heavy things. Okay. And then 4, kick somebody's ass. Right. Those are the 4 reasons you should work out, according to Pat Mack. And I don't think it's for nothing. I don't think you're big for nothing. Because you could do all 4 of those things. Hopefully we all have some longevity.
Well, I couldn't keep up on patrol right now. That's for sure. It's like,
but you don't have to.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. The point, Pat Mack's point about it's all harder to kill, right? And I think about Lance Armstrong every time when people talk about, cancer and being in shape and all that stuff, is that if Lance Armstrong was just a dude living in the suburbs with a 9-to-5 job who was not a competitive athlete, an elite competitive athlete, and he got the type of cancer he got, he'd be dead. He would be dead. Yeah. I am convinced the reason Lance Armstrong survived that cancer, because it was serious, man. It was bad. I'm convinced the reason he survived is because he was in such good shape. That's one of the reasons, like all these operators and stuff, they put such a heavy emphasis on running, right? Because the possibility of you surviving a traumatic injury, gunshot wound, shrapnel, all that stuff is exponentially increased if you are in good shape. If you are especially cardiovascular shape. It's like it goes back to the caveman, dude. It goes back to the caveman. Whatever. What did you write? We should write it. Yeah, we should. We should write a book called Harder to Kill. we were supposed to be done with that book like last September.
It was supposed to be published in September 23.
Yeah.
But you know what? You did bring up a good point there, because we were asking before, it's like, we were kicking episodes out left and right, and sometimes it was within. Remember when we first started this thing, we're like, okay, if it goes over an hour, we're going to do like one a month. And if it's, if it's 30 minutes, and we'll do like one a week or whatever. And we were kicking them out. But, those were COVID years, man. So we had nothing else to do. Work was slow if you worked at all. So we had all the time in the world. And, they put out a book and all other good stuff. But it's, at the end of the day, it comes like, for me, it's all functional strength. 225 is a lot of weight. I mean, I think for our height, because you're very similar height and build type. Yeah. 225 is a lot of weight to carry around. And it's like, I have never been 220. I think the heaviest I've been is like maybe 218, 220. But even then, like, I feel it takes a toll on my body, right? Like that's a lot of weight to be carrying around. I mean, that's me throwing, 2 more, gallon jugs of water or milk and walking around with that every day. But I know at this age now, with where I'm at and what I'm doing every day, it's functional strength. It's a little bit of everything. One, I'm real concerned about my internals, cholesterol, heart rate, blood pressure, which by working out, you fix a lot of that stuff. My eating's not where it needs to be all the time, but I try to do the best I can. Well, no, I don't. I always tell my kids, I'm like, I can't eat that donut. My body's a temple. And then my neighbor was like, yeah, temple of doom. I was like, yeah, that's about right. So it's,
that's a good one.
But at the end of the day, it's it's functional strength. It's like, hey, I need to be able to pick my fat ass up from the couch. I need to be able to, I still want to be able to go out and run, a mile or 2, even though I don't, need to do it necessarily. But you should be able to do a pull-up. You should be able to do some push-ups. You should be able to squat some weight, protect yourself, defend yourself. It's everything. It's holistic, right? You do a little bit of everything.
And the important thing is, like what I texted you guys when I left the gym tonight, I said, another day at the gym without an injury. That's a win. right? That's why I was thinking about tonight, especially. I was, doing deadlifts, and I wasn't doing crazy weight or anything. I wasn't failing, but I'm like, what good am I doing myself, my family, everything else if I'm pushing myself so hard in the gym to reach a stupid weight, but I'm risking injury, like real injury, not hurt, not like, inflamed tendons or anything, but like actually pulling something in the back. I'm not doing myself any good. So it's like, gotta step back and just be like, okay, look, why am I really doing this? It's like exactly what Roger said. It's longevity. It's like we should be, and I should practice what I preach. So I've said this on the podcast before. The reason I should be working out now, what should be motivating me now is I'm working out now so that I can get out of my chair at age 75 without struggle or whatever. I'm not doing anybody any favors, my wife, my kids, or anything else, if I'm injuring myself while I'm trying to get in quote unquote better shape. Where the three of us and most of our audience are too old to be working out for show muscles and all that stuff. It's just, you just got to put things in perspective. So I think that 225 thing is off the table for me. I mean, it's just, it's not worth it. I'm eating too much meat. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, you are.
You do eat a lot of meat.
A lot of
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah. No, and that's the perfect point is I want to be able to wipe my own ass when I'm 80 if I get to live that long. Right. But as far as the running stuff goes, just do something. It doesn't have to be running. You can row, you can swim. For me, it's low impact. Like I'll do the sprints, but going out and crushing miles of concrete and asphalt, like I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. And my body type, like I have to, if I'm gonna eat, like if I'm gonna eat like an asshole, I have to do cardio, like lots of it, because man, that stuff just goes straight to my waist. But I've tried to not do that. Been eating fairly clean. I did not eat clean the last couple of days when we were in Vegas. I did not eat clean at all.
Tell us about Vegas, man. Hey, this is a good conversation. I have a couple things on here, but I think we should derail. I had tipping at a kiosk and I have avian flu, but I think that the priorities should be what they are. And I think this is a really good discussion. I think we should dive right into it. So Josh, you were in Vegas. If you feel like sharing with the audience why you were there, what you saw and what you thought about it, I think it's a really good conversation because we're talking about Michael Jordan and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the wife and I went to Vegas last couple of days to see Garth Brooks. So Garth Brooks has a residency at Caesar's Palace. And I never saw Garth Brooks when, he was big in the 90s, when he was big, busy ruining country music, or at least setting the conditions to ruin country music. And I absolutely. Everybody needs to go to YouTube and check out the crawl that Roger just put on there. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I want you to. We're trying to drive some hits to YouTube. So the Shameless, I know Shameless, which Garth Brooks sang his song Shameless in the set list. Anyway, so we went and saw him, dude. I tell you, hands down, completely understand why he won Entertainer of the Year so many times. He put on a hell of a concert. It was so good. It was so good, man. He was very personable. He took requests from the audience. Somebody in the audience was like, I know how to play the guitar and I sing. Can I play this with you? Dude, Garth brought him up on stage, sang a song with him, and then gave him his guitar as he was walking off. So
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, for somebody
that's
that
cool.
big.
That's a Keith Urban move.
Yeah. So, the guy was super. Trisha Yearwood came out, Garth's wife, she came out, showed up. They sang a couple duets together. Then she sang one of her songs, and Garth introduced, his whole crew. One thing that was interesting to see is almost everybody in his crew, from the steel guitar to the drums to the fiddle, all those dudes have been there since day one with him. Almost every single one. There was only one dude. He was the new guy, and he's been there. He's been with him for 20 years.
Well, they're making bank. Why would you leave?
Dude, they're making crazy money, right? But even when Garth went away after that Life of Chris Gaines thing, you know, like they stayed with him. And these guys, it was a phenomenal concert. Um, man, as far as Vegas goes, though, Vegas is one of those places you go for 72 hours and then you leave. Do not stay more than 72 hours. Especially if you're on the strip. If you're off the strip, it's a lot easier. So, you know, it's nicer. I mean, I love out west, you know, on the west side of Vegas, out in Summerlin, going toward Red Rock Canyon and stuff. I think that's gorgeous out there. It's super nice. Or if you're headed out, you know, like Henderson area, you know, back out toward Lake Mead and stuff, I think it's gorgeous out there. Just on the strip, man. I wasn't a fan. And one thing that I noticed, and you know, the first time I went to Vegas was probably, I forget when we went, 2011, 2012, maybe somewhere in there. It was the first time I ever went to Vegas. The difference from then, and I've been back a few times, the difference between then and now is it is visible. It was the first time I went to Vegas, like, you know, we would go run the strip in the mornings, go do PT and stuff. And you saw people, the majority of people were fit, right? I mean, they were fit. You know, and you know, Vegas, how they have the showgirls, you know, up on Fremont Street, and then on the, you know, they're on the strip taking pictures with people, and the showgirls, like, they were all fit. They were, you know, everything. Bro, it was rare to see somebody that was fit the last couple of days on the strip in Vegas. It was rare. Everybody I saw, it was big. And I'm not talking about like, man, you know, that dude probably had 5 guys one too many times. Right. No, it was like looking at people and you're like, damn, they may have a medical condition. Big. It was, I mean, it was absolutely insane. And dude, and these people, you see these people like they're shoving Cokes down their throat. They're shoving, you know, tacos and burgers in them and stuff like that. And you're just looking at you, you're like, what are you doing? Or they legit saw a lady smoking a cigarette and she took her oxygen mask off, you know, her little oxygen thing. She had an oxygen tank. She took it off to smoke her cigarette. One, I was like, okay, I was like, you should probably get that open flame away from that oxygen. Right. Because science is going to take over at some point, and you're going to kill everybody around you.
Science and Darwin.
Yeah, but it was like, what? Oh man, it was just a lot of people. I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they're super nice people. They're great people. But I was looking around me, and I was like, this is really sad. Like, this is the state. This is the state of our country writ large. Like, it's really, really bad. Dude, it was depressing. Like, it was just like, this is terrible.
So
it was absolutely terrible.
I hear you. I haven't been to Vegas in a while. I want to go back. I want to take my wife. I want to go see some shows and stuff, possibly take some AAR points from Josh and steer clear of some of the areas that were less than desirable. But we do love to people watch, and it is important to see the state of our nation. But here's the thing with Garth Brooks. I did get to see Garth Brooks in concert. I actually worked on a crew at the Amarillo Civic Center when he came through. I got to set up and take down his set, and his was, and this was, God, man, this is back in 95. No, 91. It was when his second album came out. 92, 91, 92. It doesn't matter. Either way, I worked at the Civic Center for a while, and I got to work a few concerts. The biggest set I ever saw was Metallica. They had 18 semi-trucks, 18 of set. Garth Brooks was the second biggest, and he had like 13. So he had a set, like all the trusses and all this stuff. And I got to actually, set it up. I didn't get to meet him, but I got to set it up. And man, that was back in, he was coked out back then. And man, he was an entertainer, dude. He was climbing up the trusses. He was like 60 feet off the ground singing, Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up or whatever he was singing. I mean, it was a show, right? So I had to kick this to Roger after I kind of make this point. It's like I said earlier in the text, I was like, in some ways, Garth Brooks did for country music what Michael Jordan did for the NBA in a negative way. Is that MJ... I'll go to MJ first. MJ did something no one's ever seen. And when he partnered with Nike and they did the Air Jordan thing with the Spike Lee commercials and the Olympics and all this stuff, he became the cash cow, not only for the NBA, but also for these companies, right? So everyone else is like, holy cow, how do we try to replicate this? There is no other MJ. But how do we make another star where we can make a shoe line after them and make a whole persona around them? So the NBA, kind of after MJ, like when he was on his way out, the NBA, I think, kind of reverted back to what it was in the 1970s, where everyone was out for themselves. And that culminated in the 2004 Olympics that we've covered on this show before, where everyone was just out there for themselves. And freaking Allen Iverson was the only one who really wanted to win. The rest of them were just out there to get their poster dunk or whatever on the Angolan, point, power forward or whatever. It kind of, I'm not gonna say it ruined the game, but it's not Michael Jordan's fault, but he established this marketing thing that kind of took the NBA a step back. And that's what I'm saying with Garth Brooks. It's like, I'm not taking anything away from the guy, but he kind of crossed over into pop. He is the reason country went to pop. Because these songs were playing on rock stations. Some of the songs from definitely his second album. So it's like the country music, industry or whatever you want to call it. They saw things the same way as the NBA saw Michael Jordan years earlier. It's like, man, let's make a bunch of other Garth Brookses. We're not going to be able to capitalize this big, but let's try to make as much money as we can. And I think the industry actually suffered, just like the NBA. I think the NBA actually suffered through no fault of Garth Brooks, through no fault of Michael Jordan in the case of the NBA. I think both industries suffered because these stars were so big, so talented, and they just had the formula down. So, Roger, I know you're not a big country music guy, but what, if you don't have any opinion on that, what do you think about what I said about like Michael Jordan and what that did to the NBA? Because I love Jordan, man. I idolize the guy.
Well, I think when you talk about all these people, and I'm not real big into country music, when you talk about the Garth Brooks, the Michael Jordans, and a lot of these other folks, they are able to transition beyond just their own sport and just their own genre, right? It's getting to, I look at it, a good analogy for me is like wrestling. And they talk about when the WWF at the time, when they had brought in, remember Mr. T and, Hulk Hogan was there. And then you had like Muhammad Ali, they transitioned outside of just the wrestling base, and then they brought in Cyndi Lauper and Lou Albano and, you got into the music. So, you touch several different, industries. And I think when you look at Jordan, not only, and here's the problem is, they're fantastic generational athletes. And the reality is not everybody's a generational athlete in the NBA. Now, don't get me wrong. Every NBA player can kick my ass, obviously. And they're the 352, however many players there are, greatest players in the world at basketball. But not every NBA player is great. Not every NBA player is a Hall of Famer or a GOAT or an all-star. So you can't do that with everybody. But you look at those Michael Jordans, and I'll even throw LeBron James in there, even though I can't stand him. But him and your Garth Brooks and you have your Stone Cold Steve Austins and this and that. Those are guys that have been able to transcend just their industry. And what you do is now when your marketing base was a couple, million people, it's now, 3-4 times that. And then I think where the downfall comes in, like Luke was saying, is, okay, now we're into this, let's go back to the wrestling thing. Now we're into this pop culture. Okay. It's not just wrestling, right? Deep South wrestling in Georgia. It's now, hey, we're mainstream. Like we're on the cover of Rolling Stone. We're on MTV. We've got pop music. Now the industry takes over, I think, like Luke is saying, and it's like, okay, well, how do we continue to monetize this? And then you just end up throwing up ash and trash. And, it's like now, because shoes were a big deal with Jordans, and now it is funny though, because here's where it's coming back around. And Josh picks on me with some of our stuff. But so you had the Jordans, and then you had a couple other folks come out with some shoes. Some of them were kind of hit or miss, but then the market just became inundated with shoes, with your Kevin Durant's, your Allen. It's like, dude, everybody's got a shoe. So it wasn't special anymore. But now that everybody has shoes, the Jordans are coming back around as like the GOAT. It's like, hey man, It doesn't matter, man. The KDs are out there and the LeBrons are out there and whatever. It's like, hey, if you don't have the Jordan, the Jordan shoes have actually transcended just, sports apparel and gone to, I joke with this, with Josh, that it's become business casual, man. Like there is no other shoe out there when you can take a athletic shoes and throw them with, some slacks and a sport coat and be considered business casual. Jordans are the shoes that you can do that with. So it's kind of funny because I don't know if it's taken 20 years for that to happen, but it's come back around. And you're talking about asking about Caitlin Clark. It's funny because I actually have her notes written down here, and we can go down the Caitlin Clark thing. So she, I think her WNBA deal was like $400,000, $440,000 and change, or whatever the case is. And this is where the WNBA blew it with her as well, right? Again, transcending just her sport. She signed a deal, $440,000. Everybody was pissed off. Well, you know what? The WNBA doesn't make any money. They lose $10 to $12 million every year. Okay. And they're subsidized by the NBA. They had a chance with her to transcend just the WNBA because like her first WNBA game, which was preseason, dude, I was willing to watch it. Like I was looking to watch the game. Like, why would you not televise that game? Right. Of all the shit talking and everything that the other WNBA player, I'm like, hey, you know what? I watched some of her games in college and she was fantastic. And I, you know what? I probably have to say it's the only college women's basketball game I've ever watched was with her in it.
Yeah,
right. So then she comes to the first WNBA game. Granted, I know it's preseason. And I'm like, oh, surely this thing's on ESPN. Nope. Completely dropped the ball with that thing, dude. You had to download the WNBA app to watch the game. And and I'll kick it back to you here after this. What I think was, and who knows how she does with the rest of her WNBA career. I love the fact that she dropped 16 points in the first half and was tied with the leading scorer by the end of the game. I loved it.
I know Josh is still on Garth Brooks, but this is why I get so frustrated with any private sector, any marketing, so on and so forth. I'm going to stick on Caitlin Clark for just a second. I'll kick it back to Josh because he's still on Garth Brooks, and we got derailed there. Here's the thing. You remember those commercials, Roger, in the 80s with the Jordan Bird Converse? Remember those?
Yeah.
Dude.
That look at the McDonald's ones with them, right?
So it's like, why can't these companies like do a backroom deal? Because, okay, let's back up. So as Caitlin Clark, Rogers covered the hate on her, right? Because she's white. Let's be honest. It's because she's white. Because she's white and she's good. She's the modern day female Larry Bird is what she is.
Eminem.
She's not flashy. Well, I wouldn't even say it. Okay, but she's not flashy, whatever. She scores points. She's good. She helps her team win, right? And then you've got Angel Reese, who is the modern day Magic Johnson, who's also in the WNBA. Now, Angel Reese was like, what's that?
She have AIDS too.
Oh, okay. Anyway, at the Met Gala the other night, Angel Reese was like the center of the show, right? Angel Reese, black WNBA player. They're trying to build her up, right? And then now you've got the perfect formula here. You've got female Magic Johnson. You got female Larry Bird, both playing in the NBA. Let's do a shoe line. Let's do a shoe line to market to women. To there's a lot of girls that play basketball. Let's market. Let's strike while the iron is hot. Let's do something with this. Let's not make this a culture war. Let's make some money out of it. I get frustrated. It's like there's money to be made. There's money to be made. Female Larry Bird, female Magic Johnson without AIDS. It's just like I get frustrated. It's like there's money to be made here. It's like, what are you people doing? So back to Garth Brooks. Go ahead, Josh. I can't believe we're talking about WNBA. Who would have thought?
But you know what? That's how bad they've screwed this up. This is how bad they've missed the freaking boat on this thing. That you got three of us nugs that would never talk about the WNBA, and all 15 of our listeners are talking about Caitlin Clark in the NBA. And you know what? We won't even televise it. We're good.
Well, if they did that, Luke, if they like, hey, we're gonna do a shoe with these two, then they wouldn't have anything to complain about. it's easier just to not do anything and then complain about the disparity, one, between the WNBA and the NBA, and two, make it a race thing. Right.
Yeah, I guess
So,
there's money made there somewhere, but not the big money. You know what I'm saying?
no.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
Caitlin Clark signed a $28 million deal with Nike. That's the other reason why they hate her. They're like, what? Why would the NBA, WNBA, or Nike give her $28 million? That's, Ice Cube, when he offered $5 million to go play in the Big Three. Why would you give her? You need to give that to a black WNBA player or whatever. It's like, how about give it to the
because
best
Ice
player?
Cube gets it. Because Ice Cube gets it. He understands this.
Right.
He's not doing it because whatever. He's doing it because there's money to be made, and I admire
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Good for him. Good for him.
He's smart. No, so going back to the Garth Brooks thing. So Garth Brooks dropped his first album, 88, 89, is when his first album came out. And, you think about it, dude, growing up in the late 80s, what was popular music back then? It wasn't country, right? By and large, it wasn't country. I grew up listening to country, like old country. In my dad's truck, like Vern Gosdin country, Hank Sr., Ernest Tubb, like that was old country, right? And it was almost like bourbon in the 80s. Nobody wanted to drink bourbon in the 80s. It was all your, your white alcohol, like your vodka and stuff, right? Cocktail came out with Tom Cruise, and everybody wanted that. Like nobody was drinking bourbon back in the 80s. Pappy Van Winkle, 23-year-old, sat on the shelf in the 80s, right? That's a $5,000, $6,000 bottle now. And so, you had the hair bands, it was rock and roll, it was Guns N' Roses, like Luke was talking about, it was Metallica, like it was, and people wanted a little bit of rebellion. And along comes Garth Brooks. He doesn't appeal to just one region of the United States, because before that, a lot of the country, there was some country that had, nationwide appeal, in your Waylon Jennings and you had your outlaw country and stuff. But there was also some other country singers like, it was just kind of, it was more of they were more regional than influence than anything else. And you had Garth come out, and not only did Garth appeal to everybody nationwide in country, but he appealed to the soccer moms. Like he appealed to the different bases, like, Luke and Roger, like you guys are saying, he transcended just that old blue collar, basically white male who that was your average country listener, back in the late 80s. Because even as a kid, man, I was listening to Guns N' Roses, like turned down in my room because my mom wouldn't let me listen to Guns N' Roses because that was the devil's, music.
Same.
It was, so I was like in my room, like my radio pressed up against my ear, listening to Axl Rose, sing Welcome to the Jungle. So, and then you had Garth come out, he appealed to, this whole different base nationwide. And, he like you said, man, he figured it out, and his producers and, people behind him, studio, they figured it out quick. They're like, we are about to sell a whole lot of records, and we're about to make a whole ton of money. You need to do this. And, he put some R&B influence in his songs. He brought in drums, a lot of drums, that, and then, a lot of his songs, man, they went from, country, John Conley, old school. Next thing you know, you've got Garth Brooks singing about having sex in a truck, on, and going down till the sun comes up. And dude, it hit. It hit, and it allowed the other bands like Rascal Flatts, the Backstreet Boys of country music. It allowed bands like that, and Lady Antebellum and all these other stupid clowns, to come in. And they have some good songs. Don't get me wrong, like they have some good songs, but I'm telling you right now, they ain't country. You got Zach Brown. Hey man, he's got some good songs. They're catchy. You sing them when they come on the radio, bro. Zach Brown ain't country. I don't care how hard he tries. He's just not.
Josh,
So
I can't believe 50 years old. I've been listening to that song for years, off and on, and going down to the sun comes up. And it never occurred to me the sexual innuendo there. Until you said it just now, I'm like, oh my God.
I'm gonna pray for you.
I know. I'm so innocent. I'm an innocent mind, right? So
Pure
let
as
me
the
ask you
driven.
this.
No.
Yeah, as pure as the driven, clean as the preacher sheets. So let me ask you this, Josh. What's your favorite? Like, I know I'm calling it off the top of your head now. Your favorite Garth Brooks song?
Oh man,
Are you the dance guy?
No, it's. I mean, it's a good song, man. It's a really good song.
They made a movie out of it with
Dude, so
Luke
I
Perry.
heard that played at a friend's funeral. And it's a good song. I would have to say Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Moment.
Oh, I love that song.
If I had to
That's
pick
a
one, man,
great song.
if I had to pick one, it would be that one. It's such a good song. And everybody, I know the three of us, and I think I speak for both of y'all, like we can relate to that song because there's been a lot of times, man, we've gotten up and it's like, I should not feel this bad. Like I'm way too young to to be this to feel this bad. But yeah,
What's
and
this?
it references Chris Ledoux, which I mean,
A worn out tape by Chris Ledoux.
Yep.
So
It's
what's the song
so
he's
good.
singing about driving at night in a snowstorm? I love that song too. I can't even think of the name of the
Cold
song.
Shoulder.
Cold Shoulder. I love Cold Shoulder.
That's a
man.
good one, man. That's a really good one.
Roger's
I liked Friends in Low Places when it came out, but it overplayed. Dude, you've heard that thing at every birthday party, every wedding, everything. It's overplayed.
I'll have to tell my Friends in Low Places story someday. Back in the day, I got to live that song. I got to live that song with the woman I'm married to now. It was awesome, but it's too long of a story with only 15 minutes left in the podcast. So stay tuned. I don't know. So, okay, let me, I want to throw this in there real quick. First of all, I reached out to our listener, Jed, because Jed's supposed to be some PhD in agriculture and all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, what's going on with the avian flu? The H5N1. And he's like, man, I haven't been seeing much about it. I'm like, Jed, you let me down. I don't even know what Jed does now. I know he's a PhD. He's a Joe Biden doctor out there. But he's the agriculture guy. But I've been sending him all these articles on avian flu. And down here in Texas, I don't know if you guys have seen the articles or not. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but they're really trying to push it. I sent you guys the article from Politico. Is avian flu the new COVID-19? People want a new pandemic. That's what they want. And, word on the street is that avian flu has spread to humans now. It's made the jump. It went from birds to cattle to humans. So just keep your eye on the avian flu. I don't think it's going to amount to much because I think even the people who were wearing masks back in the day, I think that even they don't want another pandemic. They want to continue virtue signaling, but they don't want to go through it again. I just don't think so. But you guys can give your opinion on avian flu and then this other thing I'm about to throw out. So you've seen this stuff, you go to Chipotle, right? And you stand there and you go through the line and they make your little, burrito bowl or whatever they're doing. And then you get to the ticket, you get to the counter, the kiosk, and it asks you if you want to tip them, right? You've seen that, right? It's like, what did you actually do? What did you do? And it's like, what did you do to deserve a tip for providing me food? Okay, but a waiter or waitress, at a restaurant, I get it, good service and everything. But all you did was I passed through the subway line. What did you do to deserve a tip? I don't see it. So tonight I was at a gas station. I might have been picking up some frosty beverages, and the screen comes up, and my total was like, I don't know, like $11.91 or whatever. And they asked, do you want to round up to $12 to support the Boys and Girls Club? Well, no, hear me out. To support the Boys and Girls Club. And I'm like, it's 9 cents. Why not? Right? Because some of the gas stations here have local charities that they, you can round up and donate to the local charity. And if it's one I know, I'll round up to it. What the hell? It's 9 cents. So what I was thinking, guys, is I'm like, what if these what if these like food service places like Chipotle. What if they picked a charity, right? It's like, okay, do you want to donate $1 to this charity? It's like, you guys probably wouldn't because you're heartless, motherless, whatevers. But if they said you want to donate to this charity, and one's like, yeah, okay, I'll donate $1 to that. What if the company itself, because everyone's talking about, minimum wage and all this stuff, and these people aren't paid well enough. What if the company like Chipotle said, we will match whatever the customer donates to this charity? Like if it's $1, we will match that to a tip to our employees. It's tax write-off. It's all good, right? Why not do that instead of would that not be a better method than, would you want to give me a 15% tip because I did something that we didn't ask for this 4 years ago? Like, what about that? What about a company matching a donation to, the employees that are working there that night?
I still wouldn't do
No.
it. 15% is almost at the door. Most restaurants now that I've been to, I don't know if you see this, like now you don't even
20.
see 15%. It's 18, 20, whatever. My thing is, well, one, I'm totally against rounding up. And I'm against rounding up because I refuse. You know what? I'll start rounding up when they give me the charity donation receipt. Because what's happening is the company wants that charity donation receipt for their tax write-off, so I don't get it myself. So you know what?
Fair
What
enough.
I'll do is
Fair enough.
I donate we donate to charity, not enough, but we donate to charities. And it's like, I want my write-off. I'm with you, dude. I tell you what, it's interesting because now my boys, he's out there job hunting and this and that. And, we've talked about our kids, graduating and working or whatever. And I'm like, look, you're a college grad, you're not hired based on merit at this point. You don't have any merit. I mean, you haven't done shit, and in the grand scheme of things, but like all you can do is tell them I'm punctual. I'll be here every day and I'm going to work my ass off. Right. And that's something that since the COVID years, dude, it's gone. Like I am almost done tipping. I mean, I'm to the point, I don't care if it's a kiosk. Now I understand with some of the waiters and waitresses in the service industry, it's like, yeah, because you get a lot of states, because like in California, they're paid minimum wage anyway. Right now, not to say that I don't tip there. I'm just saying there are places like Arizona where I think they make, they don't make minimum wage. They make like, whatever it is, $2 an hour. And so I don't mind doing the 15%, but for crappy service, it pisses me off. And it seems like nowadays more and more, all service is crappy almost. And for a kiosk, yeah, ain't going to happen. And if you do, you don't even know they're getting that. I mean, half the time it's like Starbucks. Remember when Starbucks started doing the barista tips? The store managers were taking those tips for like the first couple years. Like I think it was like a New York Times article that had to break. That was like, oh yeah, the store manager was taking the box every night and taking those tips and putting them in his pocket or her pocket or whatever the case was. And I like, dude, you show me excellent service, I'll tip you. And generally, if we have really good service, we'll tip more than 20%. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem when it's like, well, you have to tip 15% or you have to tip 20%. Or like you said, you're at a kiosk. I was with my neighbors, we were in Louisville for our anniversary. And they've got
happy anniversary, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Jordan, 23. So it was, we were down by the entertainment district, which is a pretty cool little area, right? Dude, he's like, did you see our receipt? I'm like, no. 3.5% additional tax for the entertainment district. I hate being told I have to pay that stuff. I know it's like a little sidebar to what you were initially asking, but it pisses me off. It's like, you know what? If the food's good, if the service is good, if the environment, the atmosphere is good, I'll tip. I'll pay that out. I just hate being told I have to pay this X amount of percentage, and I'm damn sure not rounding up. Ain't gonna happen.
Do you how far, Josh? How far away do you think we are from compulsory tipping? In other words, it's just part of the bill.
I think we're here. Honestly, I honestly think we're at it right now, because they act like they act like it is already, and then they give you that. You do my favorite. I forget the meme, but it's a Kanye, meme where he's just like staring at you, giving you a very judging look. And I saw somebody was like, when the Starbucks barista with the lesbian dance theory, bachelor's in arts, when the look they give you when you put in no tip, on the screen. Now, my rule on tipping is if I didn't tip you before COVID, I'm not tipping you now. All right. And there's very few positions, obviously in the service industry, in most states, at least where I live, waiters and waitresses, most of them are only making, I think it's like $3 an hour, minimum. And then the rest of their income is off tips. And I have no problem tipping good service. And now generally, it's 20% or more, and a lot of restaurants, I think they do their staffs this service when they say, okay, parties of 6 or more, it's 20% tip. Right, we're adding 20% to the bill. It's like, okay, well, you're really screwing them over because I would have left more than that.
Yep.
So okay, and when the time comes, hey, no, because you added it in, I'm not giving you more. Like that's it, that's done. But yeah, man, I'm a notorious like no tip. And even what they've gone to now, and you got to watch it, is they put up that 18, 20, 22%, and then it's custom tip. And so what you're seeing now, there's no option for no tip. You've got to punch in the custom tip and actually put in 0, which I have no problem with. I will tell you, be like, I will flat out, I will stay there and watch you as I put in the 0. I'd be like, I'm not giving you a tip for turning around and handing me my bag of food that the guy in the back just cooked and put in a bag. Like, why would I give you, dude, my kids work at Chick-fil-A. 2 of my kids work at Chick-fil-A. I would never tip anybody at Chick-fil-A ever. For what?
Now, here's the other side to that real quick there, Josh. I know I just went off the rails and I echo what you say, but now, because I look back at my kids, I think this is how they also get screwed, because a lot of these places, especially in restaurants, they pull the tips. And then like, if you're a busser or something like that, that makes
they tip everybody out of that.
They got to tip everybody out of that, that, and that to me, like, hey man, I'm not a corporate greed guy. It's like, hey, I know how my 401k is funded and, that type of stuff or whatever. That to me is bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. And the last thing I got to say, and you can finish your rant on this thing, is, hey, if you're going to add those extra charges, that should be posted up front. If I'm going to go to the entertainment district and you're going to add 3.5% to my bill, that should be clear as day on the door that, oh, by the way, we are adding 3.5%, because essentially what that tells me is they can add whatever they want and I have no recourse. Hey, I know you ate that burger for $5, but we have a 1,500% tip that we add to that because of A, B, C, D, and E.
Yep. Yeah. No, dude, I don't mind tipping for good service for those folks who depend on those tips. But if you're paid that federal minimum wage, full federal minimum wage, I'm not tipping you. I'm not tipping you.
That's a different
burger bag and handing it to me. And again,
that's a different story.
And again, if I didn't tip you before COVID, I'm not tipping you now, and I won't lose a second of sleep over it.
So today, Roger, poor Josh didn't get it till like 3 a.m. It was like one of those rare occasions where Josh actually slept late, and so Roger and I are going back and forth, and this is how ridiculous I am. At least I won't say Roger, but this is how ridiculous I am. We were talking about. Roger's like, yeah, we went out to Texas Roadhouse last night, and it was reasonable. It's like, Texas Roadhouse, it's like reasonable compared to what? French Laundry? I mean, that's going to be expensive. And he's like, no, we got out of there for less than $100 or around $100 is what he said. And I was like, what? Really? With alcohol? Obviously, you didn't drink anything. He's like, no, this is what we ordered. This is how psychotic I am. He's like, this is what we ordered. And Roger actually texted me, what they ordered. So what do? I go to the Texas Roadhouse website and I enter in the zip code where Roger's at, basically. I was like, okay, I'm going to add all this to my cart and see how much it is. And I was like, I am shocked for a party of, wasn't it? I was shocked for a party of 4 that you got out of there for around $100.
I think like my thing was or something like that, or whatever.
But still, dude, this is why we're getting old. This is why we are the old people who give a kid a quarter and say, "Nice work, Sonny. Here's a quarter. Go buy yourself a soda pop and a candy bar and a hot dog." It's like $100 for, and y'all had a decent meal,
yeah.
But still, $100 for a party of 4. Think about when your parents back in the day. You went for a nice dinner. It's like an event, and you went to the Olive Garden, and I know this was like 30 years ago, but I'm still stuck there. And it's just like, man, that was maybe $50, 40. for a party of 4 or 5. It's just it's shocking. Like, we go to inflation and we've got like 1 minute, and I'm not going to close this out. I'm going to kick it straight back to Josh to close this out. But it's just like, it's shocking. And I know I'm getting old. But Roger, well done. You got drinks, you got dinner for around $100 at Texas Roadhouse. Well done. And you got some nice rolls. So Josh, bring us home, brother.
All right, I only got like 20 seconds. So once again, appreciate everybody listening. We will actually dedicate some time to some shout outs next episode. I promise you. At least I will.
Whatever.
I've been really bad about it. So until then, keep those canteen cups full of whiskey, good whiskey, and be good to each other.